It's hard to stand out after over a decade of resurgent boomer shooters and retro-styled first-person shooters in the indie space, and I'm not exactly sure Dread Templar does. It's slick, stylish, polished, and a lot of fun, but it's also exactly what I expected it to be. I'll just touch on the narrative elements briefly, as they're really the focus of retro shooters, and Dread Templar doesn't buck that trend. There's some brief introductory text that implies the protagonist made a questionable deal to gain access to Hell, and has now taken the path of the Dread Templar, hunting down demons that destroyed his family. This full release adds new narrated story panels, usually 1 or 2 per episode, that flesh out the protagonist's past. They're infrequent, but even as someone who prefers a bit of narrative context in their games, the quality of the story panel feels at odds with the rest of the game, and I felt they simply detracted from the experience. Of course, you can skip right past them, so that's just a minor complaint. If I had to pick some obvious inspirations, I'd say Dread Templar looks, plays, and feels like a hybrid of Quake, Hexen 2, and more recently, Dusk. It's got that distinctly angular and gothic look to its hellish landscape and architecture. Most of the demons you face are Cthulhu-ish abominations with too many limbs, tentacles, or eyes, while giving an enemy results in an almost comedic spray of pixelated gore and chunky body parts. The environments often impress with their scale, despite sticking to that early 3D look and chunky models from the late 1990s. Combination of prop placement, old-school transparency effects, lighting, and the soundtrack still manage to generate plenty of atmosphere. The music feels a little limited, as tracks are often repeated within an episode, but what's on offer is excellent. It's a hybrid of extreme metal from the modern Doom games, choir-like chanting, and a few catchy chiptune-style tracks, all of which can flow from one into the other during a single level and quickly transition for larger battles. Aside from the aesthetics, another feature it shares with those games is the incredible speed with which you move, strafe, jump, and dash around. It makes for an incredibly twitchy and reactive experience that, when combined with a kill-to-recharge slow-motion ability, allows you to shred through dozens of enemies in a heartbeat. Given you're frequently fighting on elevated platforms or locked into arenas, this ability makes it easy to dash between platforms, dodge aside, and weave through even the biggest mobs with ease, switching weapons, picking priority targets, and lining up headshots as you go. The caveat being it's just as easy to hurtle off a ledge to your doom and back to the last save point if you're not observant. Difficulty-wise, Dread Templar is fairly forgiving if you've got any experience with the genre. There are 5 modes to pick from, with Nightmare unlocked in the tutorial area a la Quake, each ramping up enemy health, damage output, and mobility, while reducing the number of medkits you'll find. As someone who got into PC gaming during the mid to late 90s and still enjoys the odd boomer shooter, Hard offered an appropriate difficulty curve that didn't feel too bullet spongy, but would still see me shredded quickly if I stopped moving. The gunplay itself feels incredibly satisfying, suitably varied, and adaptable thanks to a traditional arsenal that offers both variants within several categories and a powerful upgrade system to modify them further. Some examples include the basic dual katanas that are fine for slicing up weak spawners and boxes, but they can be combined and thrown as a powerful piercing javelin. The pump shotgun is an effective all-rounder that you can quick swap to the double barrel variant for close encounters. The trap launcher is akin to a grenade launcher, just less about direct damage and more about stunning mobs. Demonic Inferno weapons, a rocket launcher, revolver, and gauntlet, cover splash damage, high precision damage, and kill everything BFG categories respectively. Oh, and there's a bow that I rarely ever used. The enemies you go up against will be familiar to retro shooter fans as well. Melee rushers, riflemen firing improbably slow projectiles, lumbering grenadiers, sorcerers that spawn other demons, floating skulls, and the demon equivalent of plasma-hurling artillery. Each episode introduces new demons or tweaked reskins of existing ones to keep combat fresh, but it's the boss and mini-boss encounters that'll truly test your ability to move and shoot at the same time. You'll need to dodge massive sweeping attacks, AoE spells, swarms of projectiles, and often lesser demons as you whittle down their health. As a lot of combat boils down to simply not being swarmed, it was during a few desperate retreats I did notice demon pathfinding and behavior can bug out, and you can exploit it, if you backtrack far enough. Maybe something that can be resolved in a patch. Now, despite the retro trappings, Dread Templar is not without several modern features. At every level, on both the critical path and as secrets, you'll find blood gems and runes. With enough blood gems, you can unlock up to 3 slots for your character and each weapon, in which you can socket silver and gold runes that provide passive buffs. Now, the silver runes offer incremental boosts to your maximum health and bullet time meter, or marginally increase weapon attributes like damage, clip size, and fire rate. It's the rarer gold runes that are the highlight, often providing more powerful boosts, or unlocking Inferno variants of basic weapons, and altering how they function. If you're actively hunting secrets from the get-go, something I'd strongly recommend on the higher difficulties, you can find several powerful gold runes early on. There's a rune that removes the need to reload pistols, a rune that minimizes the damage drop-off of the pump shotgun, turning it into a rifle, or a rune that lets you turn your thrown katanas into the equivalent of a lightning bolt. Dread Templar encourages you to experiment, as you can freely reset your loadout at altars, But still, if you're looking to replay levels for secrets, you'll retain all your current upgrades within your chosen difficulty. Talking of runes and secrets, another of Dread Templar's strengths is its sprawling, multi-layered levels that hide an absurd number of secrets to find, and side paths that often function as platforming or gauntlet-style challenges. Yeah, it's got your typical structure, 5 episodes with 5 levels and a boss at the end, but it does a decent job of changing up the scenery during and between episodes. That's it, it helps if you're a fan of oversized gothic architecture, hellish landscapes and garish lighting. You spend a lot of time in claustrophobic interiors like tombs, prisons or caverns, but later episodes keep you above ground and often have you battling through sprawling graveyards, a demonic pumping facility, and a twisted library suspended above an abyss. Most levels are functionally key hunts, sometimes linear, sometimes with a hub and spoke design, but you'll never go far without spotting some supplies or a gold rune on a distant ledge. Secrets include supplies just tucked away around corners, but also hidden rooms that require careful observation, or just wall mashing. The most complex are super secrets, with a puzzle-like element that might involve memorizing visual clues, solving a riddle, or finding key items. Thankfully, looping paths and teleporters ensure you never have to waste too much time backtracking. The last thing to note for those returning from the early access build, many levels have been streamlined to prevent you from getting lost, and include more visual elements to highlight areas of interest. The updated placement of save points and autosaves also makes for a more forgiving experience, as you can often play it safe and loop back to save after every major battle. Now, if you've been nodding along thinking all of this sounds familiar, it does. Dread Templar is a smart mix of old and new designs, but it doesn't try to reinvent the genre or push any novel element. Despite the retro sensibilities when it comes to the aesthetics and gunplay, smart level design and a powerful upgrade system make for a more modern experience. Now, this is always subjective, and I typically prefer shorter games I'll replay, but Dread Templar offers a decent amount of playtime as well. I spent upwards of 2 hours in each of the 5 episodes, only uncovering maybe 2/3 of the secrets and side paths and a handful of super secrets. There's also a surprisingly fleshed out wave-based Guardian mode that has you defending a central crystal and using points from kills to purchase upgrades and supplies. Now, as someone who plays a few retro shooters each year, I really enjoyed Dread Templar. But that said, if you're someone who considers the genre their bread and butter, you might consider the familiar premise and lack of novel mechanics more of an issue. If you've got this far, please consider giving the video a like and maybe subscribing to our channel as it helps us grow.